Hello, this is DJ Nocturna, and thank you again for joining me. And welcome to my channel. And if you're tuned in, please like, subscribe, and share. It's a very special guest. I'm speaking with the legendary record producer and founder of KMFDM. I got Sascha Konietzko on the
Hello,
line.
hello.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining me. It's early in the morning in Hawaii, and I know good evening for you over there in
Yeah,
Germany. Yeah,
I'm
always.
in freezing cold Germany here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's been cold all over the place except Hawaii. A little cooler, but not as cold and not snowing at all.
No, of course not. I'm
Yeah,
jealous.
I know you've been here before. Yeah,
I have.
uh, back in the wild times, the heydays here, I guess. I mean, yeah, you were just talking about that you've been here back in 1991 or 92, and you
92, I think it was. Yeah.
yeah, and you played it at the club here called Pink's Garage, and I'm sure people listening who's had a memory of that can relate, and they would appreciate that a lot. You know, you've got a lot of fans here in Hawaii. I know your name is kind of KMFDM. It's like, oh, ooh, yeah, wow, yeah. So thank you for this interview. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit about going back to the founding of the project because I think it's a very significant time. It was 40 years ago. It will be 40 years on February 29. It was
Yeah,
founded February 29, 1984, right?
right. Can you believe it? 40 years.
Yeah, yeah. Can you
That's
can you
crazy.
can you talk a little bit about that? It was a very interesting time because I know, that's a leap year, right? So
Yeah, it was a leap year for sure.
yeah, it was a
So,
Wednesday. And
so technically, KMFDM will only turn 10 years old this year.
yeah.
Well, it was the occasion was an opening of a show at the Grand Palais in Paris. And the opening was for like a bunch of artists from all over Europe called the Young Wild Painters and Sculptors and whatnot. And I was just basically the driver for a bunch of drunken German artists that then had suddenly the idea to not only display their art, but also have some audio accompaniment going along with it. And so I just went to like pawn shops and just rented, bought some equipment, some vacuum cleaners and amplifiers and stuff. And I made this impromptu sound installation that was it was really shaking the foundations of that good old turn of the century building, the Grand Palais, and it kind of drove the people away as soon as they arrived. And I don't think it was legendary, but it was definitely memorable in a way. But the only thing that I kept on from that evening was that day's motto. And the motto was no majority for the pity, which in German abbreviates into KMFDM or Kein Mehrheit für die Mitleid. So the only thing that was left from that day was really the name of the project. And I liked the name and I kept going with it. And, here we are 40 years later now.
Yeah, I know there's an artist, right, that's kind of associated with this. Udo. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Udo was one of the guys from this artist troupe. They were called First Aid, and they were comprised of people from Cologne, I believe, from Munich and Hamburg. And Udo and I were pals in Hamburg. We lived on the same block, and just hung out together. And he asked me like, "Oh man, we got to drive to Paris. Oh, my friends are drunk. Can you drive us?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll drive you to Paris." And so yeah, that's how it came about. It was just a total fluke. And so is the fact that we are now talking to one another 40 years later. It's I never saw myself having a career in music. I'm not a musician. I have no musical education or talent. I'm just sort of, a DIY kind of guy, and just got into it somehow sideways, and really things started taking off a couple of years after the first show, or whatever you want to call it, when I got a postcard, imagine that, from Wax Trax Records in Chicago. And they asked me if KMFDM were willing to open for Ministry on a sort of 45-beat tour in the United States back in late 89, early 1990. And that suddenly put KMFDM totally on the map. We were opening for Ministry, playing in front of 2,000, 3,000 people a night. And completely changed my life. After that experience, I was like, why the fuck would I go back to Germany and make my living working shifts in the harbor or paint people's apartments?
Mhm.
I'm going to stay on in America and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Well, the reason I mentioned about the significance of February 29, 1984 was because, I love astrology, right? So in astrology, you can make a chart for anything. It doesn't have to be a person or or a relationship. It can be like a moment in time. So I put in the chart February 29, 1984. And in astrology, we have what's called asteroids, right? And their names out there. They have one for Sascha, and they have one for Sturm, Udo Sturm, that artist that you met. And when
Right.
I put that in the chart and I looked it up, I saw I saw both of you and his name are together 6 degrees on that day in Aquarius. So
Huh.
it was almost like it's meant to be. I'm gonna send you the chart after we get off the interview, and I'll explain it to you. It's amazing. This is like because it was a leap year, right? If this happened a year before, there wouldn't be a February 29. If it
Of
happened a
course.
year after, yeah. So this is a very significant thing for KMFDM, I believe. You know,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting. And there's other things, and I looked up your birth chart as well, because I know your birth chart is on the, you can find it. I don't know the birth time, but you have a 29-degree on your birth. Your chart has 29-degree, which is like significant to this date as well.
Uh-huh.
I'll let you know. I'll tell you about that later. But it's wonderful. I was like amazed. I was like, this meeting, this is absolutely why KMFDM, and it's even in the 10th house of career. That's where
Ah.
you light and shine, in the 10th house. So,
Well, I know a little bit about astrology. My grandma, she was well into
oh,
it. She made a living doing biorisms and stuff for people. But my mom never told my grandma the time of my birth because she didn't believe in that stuff. So
yeah.
I don't actually know when I was born. I just know I was born on Midsummer Day, the 21st of June, but I have no idea if it
Yeah,
was in the
yeah,
night or
June
the morning.
21. Yeah. Well, what I did was I put 12 p.m. and then I changed it to 12 a.m. just to see, because it can change the degree of the in
Yeah, yeah.
astrology.
Oh, it would
And
change a lot. Yeah.
either way, it came out as 29-degree in Gemini 29-degree, which is really interesting. So it's a significant to this time period, when you collaborated, when you created the project KMFDM. It's very special. So yeah. Anyway, I didn't know that about your grandma. You're being liking, being in you understanding a little bit about astrology. That's very interesting.
I rarely talk about that because, why would I? But since you brought it up, I thought I'd share it.
Yeah,
So,
this is also in Aquarius where your names are found, and Aquarius is about sudden breakthroughs. That's what it represents.
right, right.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. So that's amazing. I was going to talk to you a little bit about, you have an album coming out, and this album will be out February 2nd. Is that
Yeah,
right?
just about 6 days from now.
Yeah. And then after that, I know you're going to be on tour as well, which is also very
Yeah.
important. So this album will be released on Metropolis Records, which you've been in Metropolis now for quite a long time now.
Yeah, on and off for like 22, 23 years, something like that.
And I know you mentioned about the ministry. Your when you guys opened up for ministry. I bet if I look that up in astrology, I'll find something on that one too. Because that was another. Wouldn't you say that's another significant time for for the band?
Oh yeah, it was the breakthrough basically. Yes.
Yeah, I'll just have to I'll have to look up that as well. But tell us about. I know you mentioned KMFDM's music being the ultra heavy beat. Can you explain that just a little bit?
Yeah, it was it was the time 1984. There was all kinds of genres that were floating around. Like some people were like post-punk, and some people were this and that, a new wave and new German wave. And I just really felt that the stuff that we were doing was, it did not fit any of those compartments or drawers. And so I came up with my own term because the music was basically just beat driven. And I, how to say this? I mean, I guess the idea was really to bring together the sort of danciness of disco and electronic body music, but pair it with like the sort of staccato heavy metal guitar riffs that come obviously from metal, the whole metal movement. And I wanted to make this man versus machine type of stuff. And the ultra heavy beat just seemed like a well enough fitting kind of term at the time. And it just kind of stuck on. And now people go like, oh yeah, KMFDM, the ultra heavy beat, which is great. We just created our own little niche. And the hardcore fans, obviously, they're judging every song that comes out. Is that the ultra heavy beat? Oh, is that not the ultra heavy beat? The people are very, very polarized about KMFDM. It's my experience over the past decades. There's hardly anyone that can be lukewarm about it. People either like it or they hate it. They go like, this is like.
Yeah, well, that's powerful. That's really powerful. And you've been the member that has stayed, constant, right? The only one that has stayed constant.
Yeah, well, I was always the only one that
You
took
work
upon itself all the risks and the financial burdens. And
Mhm.
in order to fly to the United States, in order to open for ministry, I was the one that needed to go get a loan from the bank, and everybody else was like, "Nah, we don't do that stuff." I always believed in what I was doing, and so I was
Mhm.
always the guy that drove on drove on the machine basically.
Yeah, I mean I see that as a very I mean you work really hard, so I can see the success. At this point, how it came to this to where we are today is because of you. So how did you get acquainted with Wax Trax in those early days?
How did the acquaintance with Wax Trax come about? You mean?
Yeah.
That's a funny story too. After the first album was released on vinyl only, then What Do You Know of Deutschland, I packed a bunch of copies into my car and I drove to London, and I looked into the phone book to figure out like which record labels to go to and drop off a copy of the record. And so I did, and everywhere I went, I wanted to talk to people. And the secretaries always said, no, no, Daniel Miller isn't in, or so-and-so isn't in, but you can leave your record here. And then a few months later, I got another postcard from some guy in Liverpool. And he said, I want to sign KMFDM, and can we meet in London? And so I went back to London and met with this guy. And I said, how do you even know about KMFDM? He said, I found your record in the dumpster outside of Mute Records.
Oh wow.
And I was like, okay, that's funny. So he gave me £100. He bought me a pizza at Pizza Hut, and I had a record deal. And he licensed this record to Wax Trax in Chicago, and thus the whole connection came about. Wax Trax then sent me a postcard and said, give us a call, and ministry wants you to go on tour with them. So, but it was expensive to call America in those days, and I had no money at all. So, these calls were like, hey, so what's going on? When does the tour start? Okay, yeah, bye. See you later, bye. And then I went to a bank and I wrestled some 10,000 Deutschmarks out of them. And all of a sudden we were in Chicago, and it was nothing like I had imagined the United States to be. It was freezing cold. It was like telephone poles all over the streets. There were no high-rise buildings. It was all like decrepit. And there was like crack houses and little Mexican joints, and but it was cool. I fell in love with the United States right away, and after that tour, I was just like, man, I gotta stay here. This is the future.
One of the monumental memory I have of KMFDM are the album covers. They're very iconic. Ever since Wax Trax days, right? I know that the guy responsible for that is Adrian Hughes. Can you talk? Yeah, can you talk a little bit about how you guys connected, and what is the process of how you collaborate with, like, how does he have that picture?
Well,
actual
let's rewind back to the meeting with that guy at the Pizza Hut in London. That guy said, I want to release the album, but I want to have different artwork. I have a friend who's an artist. His name is Adrian Hughes, and I want you to meet him. So after the Pizza Hut thing, we went to a place, and there was Adrian and some of his artwork. And I was like, I was immediately very taken by his kind of style. And well, we released that album with new artwork. And then we did a single, and I called up Ian and I said, we want to do another artwork and another artwork and another artwork. And then all of a sudden, 5 years later, we had all these Aiden Brute artworks on our stuff. And it just became a brand. It was a brand identity. And I think it was a pretty smart move just to stick with it, because it's been sort of our doorknob for the past 40 years. If you go in a record store and you go through the stuff, there's no mistaking a KMFDM record for something else.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's for sure. Do you have any particular album covers that hold special to KMFDM?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you have any particular album covers that you like in particular that's special to you?
You mean like
the artwork?
My favorite?
Yeah, the artwork.
I think my favorite artwork so far is from the last album, Hyena.
Oh yeah.
I love that very much. But yeah, I like them all. It's just there's so many now. I can't.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But you can identify it. I mean, I know it's KMFDM when I see
it. Totally. It's like you see it, you know it.
Yeah.
I used to buy records just by the cover, and I think people did that with Brute's artwork on it as well. I mean, a lot of people were like telling me over the years, yeah, I just bought this record just because I liked the cover, and then that's how I discovered KMFDM.
Yeah, and it's so significant, especially on vinyl, right? I mean, it's forever. I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah. So what was it like working with the legendary music producer Adrian Sherwood?
Adrian and we just met before KMFDM even, I think. It must have been maybe 1983 or so that he came to Hamburg with Mark Stewart and the Mafia. And I was just hanging around the club that they were playing that night, and they asked me where to get some blow. And I just pointed them in the right direction, and that's how we acquainted. So a couple of years later, they came back to Hamburg again, and I asked Adrian, how he would feel if I would come to London and we'd sit down and mix a couple of tracks, and he was like, perfectly fine. He named an amount of money that was a little bit steep for me, but I managed to scrounge it up and went to London yet once again and mixed a couple of songs for the album "Don't Blow Your Top," and it was great. There was a catalyst as well, because
yes, definitely.
Ministry had just worked with him on their "Land of Rape and Honey" album. So somehow there was always this connectivity. mostly unbeknownst to a lot of people, I guess. And really, if you ask me, like, how come that I'm here right now, I would say it's a long, interconnected story of coincidences and just sheer luck and being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you have a lot of blessings in that way, you know. I feel that. I also like the female vocals in the music as well. I think Lucia does a really is great. Um, you have a good collaboration with her. Can you describe the dynamics of your creative partnership with her?
Well, that was one of the first kind of parts of the concept of KMFDM. We wanted to have female vocals because all of these bands that were around at the time, they all had this sort of male thing going on, and you know, they were all like sort of sweaty guitar dudes and whatnot. We wanted to have this ethereal element, you know, strong female presence, empowerment for women, empowerment for, you know, the gay community. That was always like a very substantial part in KMFDM. And so that kind of went like a red thread through the early years. And then Lucia came in 2001, I believe. And, you know, she was the personification of that, like really strong, really fragile, really beautiful, really sort of shy and out there at the same time. You know, she fit KMFDM like the glove that we were looking for a long time.
Yeah, do you feel there was some magic in the chemistry of the collaboration?
Absolutely. I mean, it was total magic. I've met, not I've met, I haven't met Lucia until years later, but I saw Lucia in 1996 in Seattle performing at a club where a couple of friends of mine were the headliners, and I just kind of happened to step by there, and I heard this otherworldly screaming from down below, from you know, from where the concert room was. And I asked the owner, Rick, I said, yeah, who's performing down there? And he said, oh, it's this band Drill from New York. They're like crazy. So I went down there and saw like a couple of songs of Lucia with her band. And I purchased the CD and then talked to my buddies. I think it was System Machine Gun, maybe they were like playing. And completely forgot about it. Probably got a bit drunk. Next morning, when I was home, I pulled this CD out of my pocket and I was like, what the fuck is that? And open it up. And, oh yeah, it was the opening band from last night. And I looked at these pictures of Lucia inside. And this one thought crossed my mind. And the thought was, I'm going to be married to that woman one day.
Wow, really? Oh my gosh.
That was really kind of weird. And then somehow I asked my manager to make contact with the band Drill, ask them if they were like maybe interested in a remix or something, and they were. And so I did a remix, and I spoke to Lucia once on the phone, and that was it. Like then 3 years, maybe 4 years later, I was looking for a female vocalist for this project MDFMK that I was doing at the time. And I found Lucia's phone number, and I called her up and asked her if she wanted to come to Seattle and, you know, do a couple of tries on a couple of songs. And she was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll be there. And then a couple of days later, she arrived in Seattle, and that was it. That was, you know,
Wow, that's a beautiful story. I feel that I get goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah, it's such a beautiful story.
Yeah, it was
Have you,
very romantic and very kind of like a guided missile in a way. As
yeah,
romantic
yeah.
as a guided missile.
Have you guys ever like thought about like collaborating together, like doing a duet or some kind of a ballad or something like that?
Some sort of what?
Like a ballad? like a collaboration of some kind, you know, that's different from I guess what you guys normally do. I don't
I
know.
mean, we collaborate all the time, you know. It's like
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
we collaborate from breakfast through the day until dinner. Look, it's kind
Yeah.
of like, can I make you a coffee? And let's
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at this video and then work on this, and then this and that and this and that. I mean, it's people always say it's kind of weird to have a working love life relationship. It's not. It comes pretty damn naturally to us, really.
Easy. Yeah. Now I know you have a daughter, and do you ever try to get her into the music world as well?
She's determined to do something, but of course, she's not going to do it the way that we do things. She wants to do it her very own way, which is really great, of course. I mean, nobody should do it the way we do it. And she tells me that she's ready to start recording stuff come this spring. So
Oh.
I'm just sitting there with my breath held and can't wait to hear what's coming out of that girl.
Does she like the same genre of music, or does she like just different stuff?
She likes very different music, much more sort of vocal driven. She is not into rock music at all. She's more into like
Oh,
ethereal vocal stuff.
yeah. And
But
what about yourself? Do you like other music genres that's outside of what you do? Do you appreciate other kind of music, other
to be
genre?
honest, I really don't listen much to music. I mean, I put on music when it's the summertime and there's people out and we're having a barbecue.
Hmm.
Uh, but really, I rarely ever feel the desire to put on some music because I'm working with music all day long, and then
Right,
at the
right.
end of the day, I just like a little quiet and um, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm very open to listen to any kind of stuff, new stuff. If someone says, "Oh, you got to check this out, you got to check that out," it's really cool. I do check it out, but I've never been like the music listener. I've never been the guy with the Walkman or the iPod or I
Yeah.
don't sit in the subway with like headphones on. It's kind of like I don't know. It's not my thing.
I know you're preparing for your live shows coming up in February, I believe. Is it March? March, right? March.
Yeah.
How do you have a certain ritual you do, like a ritual you do before you go on stage?
Nah, not really. I mean, usually a shot of vodka will do the trick.
That would
No, there's no
be the
ritual.
trick.
It's everybody, everybody in the band is on their own kind of schedule, so to speak. I mean, Andy Blacksugar, our guitarist, he will sit there and play some scales.
Uh-huh.
But she will disappear into some corner and get ready for the show, and so does everyone. Andy will go have a nap before he gets to drum, and I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna have a shot of vodka and then we're gonna go on, and that's it.
Yeah. I love the video. I know there's a video that's been released. I think two singles have been released from this new album, right? It's called Let Go.
Yeah,
And there's a video which is a really interesting one. It goes back to I guess there's pictures of the images of the 70s and 80s like themes, which I can totally relate to. Can you tell us about
yeah.
this video? And it's great.
Well, the second single, the song Airhead,
Mhm.
is it's a typical, off kilter kind of Lucia thing, which is just talking about, you know, about things that she remembers from being a kid in the 70s and
Oh.
80s. And our friend Pedro Rodriguez, who's on tour with us all the time, he was just like, "Oh man, I really have some ideas to make a video to all of this." And he created this visual trip down memory lane. And we popped that video out, not quite, well, about just 48 hours ago, and we got, I don't know, about almost 30,000
Yeah.
views on YouTube, 25,000 views on Instagram. And you know, a lot of people get it, but then there's the young kids from today, and they're like, well, KMFDM is now doing shitty pop music. You know?
No, not even.
It's like, hey, this is for adults, you know. Just you don't get this. This is from a time when telephones had a cord attached to them, and you couldn't move away from the telephone only for as much as the cord was long. And they
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah.
ah, way, no way.
Yeah, they don't know. It's kids. Kids today, they love the 80s. They love the music, even though they don't really know what it is or how it became. They love to dance and I don't know. But I think it's a great video. Yeah, thank you. I could relate to it because I kept watching it because I was looking because all these different images came on, right? And I'm trying to remember. I know I saw the Jetsons and I saw and that was like a cartoon that was one of my favorites growing up. And
Yeah.
just even toys, which is very significant. And kids today, they don't know toys the way that we knew toys.
But
That's
I mean, to me, it's even strange a little bit, even though I grew up in the 60s and 70s, but obviously I didn't grow up in America. So all of these commercials, I'm like, huh?
oh
Okay, I see. Oh, that's Miller Lite. Ah, yeah, yeah. You know, flaming hot pockets, that kind of
yeah.
stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So will you guys be releasing? Let me see. There's no more. Will you be releasing another single or before you release the entire album?
Now the album is coming in 5, 6 days,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's not
pretty soon.
time
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
There's not really time to slot another single at this point.
Yeah.
But we're going to be playing a bunch of songs live on this upcoming tour, and people are asking like, "Oh, you're going to celebrate 40 years?" And I'm like, you know, it's not really about celebrating. It's more like perpetuating 40 years. We're shooting for 50, 60,
Yeah.
75, 100 years.
Of course. Yes, forever.
But one of my longstanding, what do you want to call it? It's not a vision. It's a wish. It's a hope. It's that KMFDM becomes a band that spans more than one generation. Meaning, in a time where I'm not walking the face of this earth anymore, maybe KMFDM will still be perpetuated by the next generation. I'm not necessarily saying by my daughter or something, but it would be so cool to pass on the torch.
Yeah, it's really funny. I was going to ask you that question and you answered it because I feel you're going to do that.
there's like, I don't know, there's like 400 or so song, like just short of 400 songs that we did as KMFDM, and it would be so much fun to reinterpret them with whatever technology and or musical styles are going to be cool in 10, 15, 20 years from now. So yeah, this would be a legacy project in a way, which would
Yeah.
probably make me really happy if I could witness that. But of course, I'm going to be dead by that time, so I won't be.
What about books? Did you ever, you think, I mean, is that something in your mind, to write something, about at KMFDM and the legacy and
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it. I've been talking to a few people about it, people that I thought could be, interested in being, facilitating some sort of, I don't know, ghost writing stuff. But so far, I haven't found any takers. And, it's writing a book seems to me like such a hurdle, like such an active work of like for a Sisyphus in a way. I've never done anything like it, and I wouldn't even really know where to start it. So I'm looking for help really with that.
Well,
But I have,
I think you're a very strong manifester, so I think it will manifest itself.
yeah,
Uh,
maybe. But
y-
then again, I'm always, I just come off the road and I go back in the studio and finish an album, and then I go back on the road and then repeat, repeat, repeat. So I think in order to write a book, I need a sabbatical. I need to like go
yeah.
somewhere else.
Hmm.
Maybe go, I don't know, into the mountains or onto, maybe go to Ireland and
Oh,
rent a little house on the sea or something and just eat kelp for like 3 months or whatever. Fish, I fish for myself. Or maybe go to Hawaii.
yeah, Hawaii. Yeah, come here. You know, this is a very meditative, very magical place, and you know you've been here. But I guess when you came here, you were too busy. You know, you were performing and all that. But
I was only in Honolulu and it was kind of like, yeah, it's like how it is. It's kind of like
I mean, is
hey,
there?
we have a show tonight. Hey, we have a show tomorrow night, and then
Yeah.
we rented my sound guy Lee and we just went on a catamaran, and the mast broke, and we were like just like drifting off, um, Diamond Head there, and
Oh yeah, you remember.
the water got darker and darker, and the waves got bigger and bigger, and then this fucking white submarine kind of comes up with like Japanese tourists on board. We're like, Mayday, Mayday, and they're taking pictures of us. And then finally the Coast Guard came and towed us in after like 6 hours lost at sea.
Oh wow.
And our
Yeah.
girlfriends were like at the beach, and they were like, we're having Mai Tais. Well, where are you guys? Did you have a good time? We were like, we nearly died.
Is there a place in the world that you would like to go to or perform that you haven't performed yet?
Um, yeah, I want to go to South America, really. It just always seems to be such an inopportune time when we're invited over there.
Hmm.
But yeah, we've been to Australia and we've been to Japan and
Yeah, you've been everywhere, I think, you know. Just
no,
be
not really, not really. I mean, we've been to Russia a few times. That was really, really unpleasant, kind of, I have to say. Um, yeah, I mean, there's continents that we haven't really done at all. Like going to Africa would be cool. South America, places in Asia would be nice.
hmm. Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, one of my favorite foods is Vietnamese food, so I wouldn't mind going to Vietnam.
Oh, yeah. Vietnamese. Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you like do you like to cook?
I love to cook. I
Oh.
think cooking is like making music. It's after a long day in the studio, what I love best is making dinner. And
What is your favorite type of dish that you can make that you make yourself?
what's that?
Well, what is your favorite type of dish, you know, dish that you make? Is it Vietnamese or German?
Well, I'm not very good at Japanese, even though I do like Japanese food, but it's really hard to get good ingredients here.
Mm.
Um, I make a kick-ass pho, and
Oh,
we're doing a lot of Italian and Spanish, Mediterranean type of cooking. Um, we're doing a lot of, sort of cross technique, kind of a little bit of a little bit of Indian, a little bit of Chinese stuff. Whatever's in the house.
mhm.
There's a way to do things. But the typical day-to-day fare would be Mediterranean, just like you know,
Yeah.
olive oil and fresh ingredients, salads, fish, meat. Um, I don't know. I love to eat.
Yeah, 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 me too. Oh, so would you say you're a foodie? Foodie kind of guy, you know, like loves food.
Yeah, I never go out much, so we're cooking at home a lot, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love food too. I mean, Hawaii is a great place for that. We have so
oh
much,
yeah,
all kinds of food here. It's just fresh fish and kind of, you know, that stuff. Yeah. When you come to Hawaii, if you know, when you guys, I'm sure you guys will be back again. Yeah. It'll be a great place to do the tour next time, you know.
yeah. You got to give us a tour of
Yeah. I
the
think many
places that you
people
like
want to
to go.
help out with that. I think a lot of my friends will want to help out with the tour, with taking you guys on the tour.
That'd be wonderful. I would love that.
So the album Let Go, can you talk a little bit just really quickly about what is the inspiration behind this album? This what is it?
Well, there's not really any inspiration behind the album, and there's not really. I never think about inspiration. I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was thinking about that earlier. Inspiration is kind of something that you can, or that
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can turn on or off. I can say, oh, I want to be inspired now for the next 10 minutes. So everything I do or touch or look at will inspire me indeed. But really, like the way it works for me is, I mean, I'm the guy that starts all of the musical ideas, and it starts with a sound I like, like maybe sometimes it's just something I record when I'm out, and I bring it into the studio, and I'm like, oh, there's a cool little vibe in this rhythm or something, and I sort of diligently, but I futz around with a lot of stuff, things where people go like, hey, what's he doing? But all of a sudden things take on a life of themselves, and then that's typically when I go like, okay, so here's like a budding idea, and then I play it for Lucia, I play it for the Andys, the guitar Andy and the drum Andy, and everybody either latches on or doesn't latch on, and if they do latch on, then they put their own kind of tinge on it, and so forth, and so it gets built and changed and rearranged, and maybe someone will say, it's too slow, we should speed it up, or we slow it down, or can't sing it in that kind of tune, so let's try it in a different tune. So everything undergoes like a lot of change, and oftentimes when I'm looking at a track that is being done mixed and mastering, I don't even, for the best of mine, I can't even remember like what was that even, how did they even begin, or what was it called, what was the earliest version of this called. So it's everything undergoes a huge metamorphosis over time, and oftentimes the time is not very long. Things can change massively in a couple of just days, really. And in the end, we're sitting there with an album, and we're like, oh, this is done. There's nothing else that needs to be done. Of course, you can always do things. You can always, fiddle yourself to death, and just, don't give up, don't stop, and this needs to be louder, and this needs to be tucked in more. But at some point, it's just done. I know when it's done, and so does everybody else in this band. We're just like, all right, put this to rest. This is not going to get better. It's just going to get different. And oftentimes it's even though what I just said, will you will say, oh, if you don't even know the nucleus of something, then how can you say this or that about it? But it's just a gut feeling, It's I know when something is done. Like I know when the pasta is done. I don't need to taste it. I don't need to throw pasta to the wall to see if it's done. I look at it, I smell it, and it's done.
Yeah, I feel you have a really strong intuition just by speaking with you.
I do have it.
I really love the photo here by Bobby Talamine or Talamine. Yeah, I know I guess he took these photos. It's just you have a legendary picture here, when you're, I don't know, and when nobody can see it, but I'll put it up. Picture of you with your mom.
It's the one with the Chicago Cup jacket.
Yeah, yeah. You're going like this, and you have sunglasses on, your hair. It's just the color.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. I mean, the whole picture is great. The whole band and
yeah, that was a great little shot there.
Yeah.
That was all taken in Chicago, I believe. It was
so
taken at Cold Wave 2017.
oh, yeah. And I know that you're touring beginning March 6th, Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, if anybody want to get their ticket, they can go to your website, kmfdm.net.
Yep.
On there, it has all the info you need, and you can watch the video there, the latest video that came out called Airhead. And the tour will run all the way from March to March 25th in San Francisco. I hope I can catch that one. No, 27th actually.
It goes to Portland and Seattle even.
Yeah, Seattle, Washington. I'm thinking I'm looking at the San Francisco one because I can go to San Francisco easily from here, but we'll see. This is great. Yeah.
If you do decide to go, shoot me an email and we'll make sure to have you on the guest list and all that.
No, thank you. I would do my very best. I'll see. It's coming up soon, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations on this new album and your long-lasting legacy with KMFDM. You put this band together and it's still going strong.
Thank you very much.
And of course, this album is going to be released February 2nd on Metropolis Records, another wonderful label. So thank you so much, Sascha, from KMFDM.
You did not turn out. My pleasure. It was great talking to you.
And of course, you can always check out the album also. You go to metropolis-records.com or the kmfdm.net. You're also on all the major social media sites, Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. So, well,
Yep.
thank you so much. Well, don't hang up. I'm going to talk to you about that thing. I'm going to send it to you, by the way. All right. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to stop the recording.